All right, you've been lied to. Perfect planning doesn't exist, let alone prevent failure. If anything, all it does is help predict it. Look, smart project leaders don't just chase flawless plans. They build systems that bend, adapt, and bounce back when things go sideways. And the tool that I love that makes this all possible is your risk register. So today, let's talk about why you need one. Let me show you how to use one, and then how you can use it in your projects today to lead to project risk success. Sadly, this is what I see usually. Project managers with a 42 slide project plan that has a couple slides that are talking about risk, but overall, I don't see much risk strategy whenever I'm looking at these. Instead, they're trying to treat risk as an appendix to their plan that is sitting in the back of a dusty binder. They fill it out once, they might do a risk workshop, try to get some stuff done, but then once they do it, it's done. They don't reflect, they don't go back and look at it, they don't review and update as they go along. But the best PMs, the ones that actually manage risk for their projects, they don't just create and hope it works out. They create something that's effective and capable of maintaining risks throughout their projects and keeping their stakeholders involved and updated along the way. Because at the end of the day, they don't just track risk. They live by it and use it as a strategic input to their project decision making. So for you, when you build a risk register the right way, it becomes your radar. It's your early warning system for threats and opportunities that sit out there. And sometimes it is the deciding factor between success and failure. But what if you've never actually built a risk register before? It's not a problem. If you're building your first risk register or reviving one that's just been ignored, start with these 3 rules that are going to make your life a lot easier. Rule number 1, start before you're ready. Don't wait for the final charter to be complete. Don't wait for perfect clarity for all of the information. You don't need everything. It's way easier to just take what you know and build off it as you gain more information. Start your risk register at the moment someone tells you, hey, here is your new project. Don't wait until someone tells you, I think we might have a problem. Get it built so that as risks show up, you can write them down, assign the weight, and build the response plan that's necessary. Really, that's all you have to do is just grab those bull by the horns and get the initial momentum for your risks. Do it before you're ready. Build that risk register, one of the first documents you should have to start analyzing what could cause you problems and where you can get ahead of with your opportunities. Rule number 2, score it where it matters. There are many different ways to skin a cat, and there are many different ways where you can do your analysis on which risks are more important. But when you have time, I always recommend that you do not just qualitative analysis, but you do that quantitative analysis for your projects. When you're moving in a crunch time and you have to just get some stuff done, do that qualitative risk analysis. You should always at least get that assessment done. It is not perfect, but it is a way to at least do a intelligent analysis of your risks. The trick though, you want to make sure that you do it consistently throughout your project. Establish barriers, establish guidelines. What is your scale going to be? If you're using the 1 to 5 scale for probability and impact, make sure that you actually have a definition between what is 1 and up to what is 5. When you set these parameters early and make sure that you make a conscious analysis at each risk, You're making sure that your decisions are a little more structured around each one of your risks, allowing you to build that rack and stack of which one is most important, moving into that either that quantitative risk analysis or into the rest of your project. And also make sure that you are analyzing those risks against the other ones. Don't just blindly, this is my risk. It's a 1, it's a 3, it's not that bad compared to other risks. Make sure that whatever you're doing, you're always analyzing, comparing them to other ones in your register. So that way you always have a good list of what's the most important down to what's the least important. And rule number 3, assign a name, not a role. This one's a big problem you see a lot, and something that probably drives me a little nuts. See, a risk register, it includes all the information you need to include who is responsible for that risk. It shouldn't always be the project manager. The project manager has the project to manage, not just the individual risks. This is why we have subject matter experts. The team, the project team is what is involved with risk management. So when you're assigning risks and you're assigning owners, you should not just put the team, IT, the vendor, or any of these different areas. You need to assign them to people, someone that you can call on when you have questions, someone who knows the plan associated to each one of those risks. So that way, if something materializes, they can turn around and react the way that you planned and then implement whatever you have to minimize the impact or maximize, if it's an opportunity, on how to gain what you need to from that risk turning into an issue. Accountability lives in the name, not in the department. Always assign a person to each risk. Hey, if you're liking this video, make sure you do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe, and then hit that bell over there so you get future updates on 44 Risk PM and these videos. Let's continue on with the risk register. For the next part of this video, I'm going to quickly take you through one of my risk registers just so you can take a quick look at what I use and how maybe you can use this as well. I'm going to leave a link below on how you can download this template and use it in your next project. Okay, so here is the template that I like to use. And as you can see, you have the project manager, the ID, the project name, the ID, the project manager, and the risk manager. So when it comes down to your risks, you just put your date identified, risk ID. I get actually asked this question: how should I ID my risks? Honestly, that's up to you and your team. A lot of times I like to put 001, 002, 003, and then sometimes based off the level of the project complexity, how many people I have in it, I might actually start numbering them based off meetings or individuals. I might put IT1, IT2, Ops 1, Ops 2. You can do it how you want to. No real structure. Just make sure whatever process you're using, it allows you to go back and actually identify them. And you're not duplicating numbers. Categories. So you always pick a good category. I have time, scope, cost, quality. So, you can adjust those as needed. Your risk description. This is the key element, I think, of your risk register. Make sure you're using the right risk statements. Due to the lack of blah, there's a risk to X resulting in Y. So just make sure you're using those good descriptions so that way anyone who looks at your register understands what that risk is and what the impact is to your project. Risk owner, always want to have a risk owner, never the PM. Is it a threat or an opportunity? What is its impact to your project? Then we get into that risk analysis, that probability impact. Here I use the highly likely, unlikely, possible type scenarios. You can use a 1 through 5 if you want to. I like just this one because it gives me a good pickings on how I think this is going to work. And then you have your impact over here. Again, 5 of them as well, from negligible all the way up to catastrophic. Catastrophic being, we need to probably take care of this anyways. And it gives you the risk rating on the other end. Then here you start putting in your response, what's your controls, what's the trigger that your risk owner should be looking out for, the residual probability, residual impact, and your overall rating. Obviously, you can see that this is used for qualitative risk analysis. I always recommend that you're doing qualitative. When you have the time, resources, you do quantitative. Quantitative is a art on top of a science. If you are pushing and you're like, hey, I don't have a risk register, this is a great one to start off with, because I also throw in a quick little dashboard here where you can kind of see a total amount of your risks, what your residual looks like, just some stuff that you can easily take, copy and paste on to a risk report. I like is the heat maps. These are great for stakeholders to take a quick look on where all your risks are sitting at. All right, so that is a quick look at a useful risk register, one that I like to use. I've built, it's worked well for me. Maybe it could work well for you. So that's why I'm going to leave a link down below. If you want to download this, it'll say downloadable risk register. All right. Now that you have a good idea of what a risk register should look like, the real magic turns to using it in your projects. Make sure that your risk register is a part of your daily rhythm. Make sure that you're reviewing it at least weekly with your team, but throw it into those daily stand-ups or those sprint reviews. Make sure that these are, whatever you're doing with your risk register, you're looking at it constantly with the team to do that rack and stack to see which risks you can take off, which risk needs to be added on and analyzed. So depending on the size of your project, though, is going to determine the frequency of how often you're looking at it. Preferably, I say weekly is the minimum you should be looking at your risk register, though. Next, make sure you're updating it when new risks pop up. As I said, you're constantly looking for that rack and stack. So when you get a new risk, you put it through your qualitative risk analysis and you stack it up against those other risks. Don't just forget about the other ones. Don't just put the new ones at the bottom of the list. Find out where they sit in that grouping. When you do your quantitative risk analysis, this is going to help you a lot more with figuring out where they're at. But the trick is, when you get a new risk, make sure you're reevaluating your whole list in accordance to how that one impacts you compared to the others. And lastly, escalate when needed. If something's heading into the red zone, don't just wait to your weekly report to bring it up. Surface it now, right away. Bad news does not become better over time. Therefore, you want to make sure that when you need to escalate, you escalate as soon as possible. And make sure you mark it down on your register that you've taken that action on the risk for whatever reason you are actually escalating it. And last, bring in your team. Train them to flag risks on their own. They shouldn't always just need you to bring it up. Teach them to log the issues and suggest responses. You never want risk management to sit solely on the shoulders of one individual, especially the PM, because again, they have so much else to do on that project than to focus on one risk that sits in finance when finance has subject matter experts that can help them out. So therefore, make sure you bring in your team and you train them to handle these risks accordingly. Make it a team sport for you and your organization, because your goal should be to have a living risk register that's built to protect your plan and not just take up your time. All right, you've got the structure, you've got the strategy, but now I want to make sure you got the shortcut. Down below, check it out. I have a link over to my downloadable Excel risk register, the same one that we went over a little bit earlier, that you can grab and start using today. Just again, click down below where it says downloadable risk register. If this helped, make sure you give a like to this video and drop a comment down below. What's the biggest lesson you got out of this when it comes to your risk registers? I want to know. And before you leave, make sure you click this link over here. Maybe you can learn also how I show you to build a RACI chart in Excel as well. Thank you. Ready for Risk PM out.